The Preamble. Herein lies the basis for the obstruction of justice case. Based on the definition of obstruction as defined by the 2002 Congress and supported by Justice Anthony Scalia, President Donald Trump's actions merit obstruction of justice pending impeachment. We the people, that's us, are confronted with Trump, his family, and others in the campaign waiting for the GRU, Russia's military intelligence service, to release the stolen John Podesta and DNC, Democratic National Committee, emails to WikiLeaks, who then would release them to the country. What that means is, when we start the obstruction of justice case, we're looking for the emails from John Podesta and the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, that WikiLeaks has gotten a hold of, that would be released to them by the GRU. And they would then be received by Donald Trump's kids to be released to Twitter. On July 14th, 2016, WikiLeaks confirms it received the encrypted stolen emails from the GRU. It alerted the team, that's Trump's team, who were waiting anxiously for the release of all 20,000 emails 3 days before the DNC convention. This release of tranches of emails was intended to cause maximum harm to the DNC, showing a party purported to be divided. Well, I gotta say, if someone released 20,000 of your emails and you didn't know what they were containing, you'd be pretty upset. And how dare a Russian entity, the GRU, the FSB, whoever, release these emails to WikiLeaks. And WikiLeaks then releases them to Donald Trump's team. Is this something that we believe foreign entities should do? Would you like all of your emails released? Can you verify what you said in all those emails? I'd be upset, and I think you would be too, to have 20,000 emails released, especially since we're talking about political campaigns and people, a lot of people in discussion on the Democratic Party and their strategies. I think that would be distressing. And 3 days before the convention, that'd be very distressing. Sure, the Republican Party didn't make a big deal out of it, and all the newspapers, everyone was pointing the finger at Podesta and the Democratic Party and questioning what they did and their strategies, when none of this should be made in the open at the time. Though it certainly gives us precedent to say, at this point in time, we'd like to see what the Republican Party thinks and how they're reacting to everything that Trump is saying to them when he says, go against the will of the people in your state. You're the governor. You make the decisions for the state. Forget about the citizens. Forget about the cities and the city governments. You, the governor, report to Trump. Well, I'd be a little careful if I was the governor today, because 36 governors are up for re-election. And if they're going to have so much power, and they're going to take that power away from their citizens and their cities, I'd think twice about who I was voting for in the next election. But I digress. We, the people, should understand the magnitude of this theft of property. How is this different from physically breaking into a locked DNC headquarters, as in Watergate, when Nixon's plumbers broke into a building that housed the DNC and rifled through their papers? Sure, emails are not hard copies, but as I've always argued, you can make it into a hard copy in a nanosecond. All you have to do is put them through a printer, and all 20,000 emails are there for everyone to peruse. But I digress again. So, Trump, his family, and the campaign were not physically doing the burglary. How it occurred is redacted, but we do know the burglary was anticipated by Trump and his kids, and they were waiting for the successful results of the efforts of the GRU and WikiLeaks, and they were rewarded. To be continued. The preamble to shining a light on the Mueller Report continued. I apologize for not being able to do this in one tranche, but I'm trying, and I hope to finish the preamble today. Trump and his kids were eagerly awaiting the emails that the GRU and WikiLeaks were going to be providing. As we look now, they got more than they anticipated. 50,000 emails between Podesta and Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, her campaign, and her private speeches the preceding year were all released. All the emails came from Podesta's private email account. How they were taken was redacted by William Barr, the Attorney General. And I'll give you some background on William Barr. He was known to have lost millions of emails when he worked for George W. Bush. He's very skillful, and he skillfully wrote 4 pages of lies on the Mueller Report. But I digress. Let's look at what happens. On July 27, 2016, Trump goes on national TV and states, "Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find Clinton's 30,000 missing emails." He's referring to the emails on Clinton's server when she was Secretary of State. The GRU methodically came up with those emails. How? The methodology was redacted by Barr in the Mueller Report. Ultimately, the GRU stole 300 gigabytes of data from the DNC's cloud-based account and releases them. After only 47 pages into the Mueller Report, we were hit with the enormity of the theft of the DNC emails, Clinton's personal and public data, Podesta's emails, and remember, Podesta was a strategist for the DNC, and a Clinton's aides' emails. A foreign government has hacked the emails of candidate Trump's rival, and at his command, in order to benefit Trump, his family, and members of his campaign team. This should not have ever been allowed. This should have been a criminal offense to have a foreign entity hacking the emails of American private citizens and then making them public. And worse, which I did not include in my synopsis, are the terrible slogans and memes that were developed because they had uncovered Clinton's emails. They smeared her. And they smeared her evidently effectively because they targeted everyone who had voted Republican with memes, with characterizations, with demeaning comments about Hillary Clinton, none of which were true. Certainly, we the people now know that the release of these emails had occurred and others were the subject of discussion at the June 9th meeting in Trump Tower. Trump intended to get dirt on Clinton, his opponent, and he was rewarded by the Russians, and he used that dirt to smear dirty Hillary for all to see. If the tie back to Trump were not true, why did and does Trump still attempt to obstruct justice? We may ask that, because he did obstruct justice in the run-up to the 2016 election. Why is Barr spinning falsehoods and obstructing justice? Why did Sessions lie to Congress about his Russian connections? They all lied for 2.5 years to cover up a blatant crime that has been committed against the other political party, as well as the people of these United States. This most surely had to have been agreed to in advance. The cooperation with a foreign power was too extraordinary to be coincidental. We, the people, must be concerned that all our data is too vulnerable to foreign countries seeking to divide our nation and destroy our faith in the system and the rule of law. What laws will protect our vote from future foreign country interventions in our elections? I asked that question because I assumed at the time that our greatest enemy was Russia. Now we know, not so much when Republicans are destroying our right to vote nationally. And this is 2026, 10 years after the Russian intervention in our election. Worse, Russia targeted our voting machines as well as state boards of election, secretaries of state, counties, and individuals associated with those entities. We must ask ourselves, are we more secure today from cyber attacks than we were in 2016? If not, why not? And I think that's a real concern, but not concern enough to prevent us from voting this June in any primary as if it is November. Vote for your candidate, register and vote in the primaries and in the general election this November. What happens in 2028 depends upon it. The facts speak for themselves. Even with redactions, our voting systems and our political election process have been compromised by Russia. Furthermore, Russian money and Russian individuals organized ad campaigns and rallies on behalf of the Trump campaign, and aggressively targeted the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton. Russia, Trump, and WikiLeaks impugned Hillary Clinton's character. Some will counter and say that the U.S. is skewing foreign elections too. This is true. However, if you're going to use back channels to destroy America's opponents, we should be smart enough to make sure no Americans and no American systems are equally vulnerable. Where is or was American superiority when massive cybersecurity was needed and required? I really don't know what happened and how we allowed this to happen, because Russia not only violated the DNC, it also violated the RNC. And none of these emails should have been made public by the press, but they were. And that's unfortunate. We aren't all Americans enraged over our system failures. Why aren't the American people appalled by the unethical and immoral behavior of this president, his family, his campaign, and transition teams? I often wonder why. If we want justice to be done, we must demand an inquiry into obstruction of justice, pending impeachment. That is the only way to know the truth. The American people are entitled to the unredacted work product of the special counsel. Let us all read about the magnitude of Russian interference in our election, and further understand why Trump and his team accepted Russia's help. It appears that when winning is everything, and there are no rules of engagement, it is up to we, the people, to demand equal justice. We have been wronged, and we continue to be wronged. We are paying for current Republican Party policy with our lives. And it appears, it continues. When winning is the only thing that matters, the American people suffer. Who is interested today in our well-being and our welfare? Ask yourselves, and then vote. If the Republican Party can only give us dissent and a way backwards, and no education, no health care, no science and technology that helps us, no infrastructure, and gives us only war and poverty, is that a party we want to support? Think. And now I'll go on to Volume 1 of the Mueller Report. Thank you for listening. I am going to be brief, and probably, since this was the preamble, I did take literary license by giving you my thoughts as well as the preamble. When we get to Volume 1 and 2 and the glossary, I will be absolutely on target and concise. Thank you.